Good afternoon and welcome to Kitely. Welcome back to Kitely. April, you're grey for me. I don't know why. Monique, you're okay. So I can only think it's April's connection. So don't be too surprised in the stream, April, when you see that you're grey. That's I can't really do much about it. If anybody knows how to stop that, how to res the an avatar, somebody else's avatar, of course. I know how to do it for myself.
I did that. I could do that in Second Life,
Yeah,
but
I've
not
never
here.
figured it out.
I haven't found it.
No, I haven't either. Neither in Firestorm nor in Alchemy. So I don't really know what, what's going on there. But that's what it does. I think it's just one of those things we're going to have to put up with. So what we're in now is a very typical, what we call a red brick building. The shell of a red brick factory from the Industrial Revolution. You can tell it's huge. It's built of brick, as many houses in Britain still are. Victorian houses sell at a premium because of the fantastic red brick they used and the skill of the bricklayers, because they're very, very, they're very stable, very structurally sound buildings. And at some point they were all deserted. People just abandoned them and moved into modern factory blocks and out of towns factories because the space was getting too tight. But these places sprang up all over the UK. At one point there's a famous line, Britain's dark satanic mills. I don't know if you've heard it.
A what, Lynn?
The dark satanic mills.
Dark satanic meals?
Mills, not
What's
meals.
that?
Remember mill? Mill?
Oh,
Meal.
okay.
Meal?
A meal.
Mill. Dark satanic meals. That's not a reflection on British food.
It could be.
No. Oh, please, no. Don't say that. Now, just to bear with me 1 second. I'm just checking that I'm in the right area of my... That's interesting. I'm not sure if I'm in the right area of my computer, so I will just extract now and hope. Okay. Okay, it's gone into the right place. Excellent. Good. So what we're looking at is, as I say, this is a Victorian factory, and they were built by what they were called the nouveau riche of the time, the tradesmen, the wheelers and dealers, not the landowners. The landowners basically lost out to the Industrial Revolution, many of them, because they didn't move with the times, and so we had this new class in the UK, and often looked down upon because they made their money in work rather than having inherited it. So it's a bit of a shame, really, but that's what the UK is still like in sometimes. Okay. Now, there were downsides to this. There were upsides to it. Some people got very rich. And last time, in the last session, we discussed what the problems were with the cottage industries of the day. You know, each time materials had to be brought to each individual cottage, and there were several different processes to go through, and each time the products had to be picked up and moved to the next process. The idea of the factory was to bring it all under one roof. Now, was it a good idea, do you think?
I think so, because you can centralize your operations in one
Yep,
place.
that's how we kind of view things nowadays, isn't it?
Yes and no. Actually, sometimes it's better when you can outsource something. So do what you want to do best, and just you can outsource the rest of the processes. But it depends, of course, on the industry or the product that you are manufacturing.
That's very true too. Okay, but this was revolutionary. Yeah, the idea of doing this was absolutely revolutionary.
But it is just the contrary. It is now the opposite, Lynn, I think, because a lot of factories just sent their uh, production. They let other peoples, other countries product their basic, and then to bring it to their to our country here, and then here they just put everything that is already made in the other country, low cost countries, and then they make it here. Just they assemble it here, and that's all. So instead of everything in the same place, it is now just the opposite.
Yeah, it's funny how the more things change, the more they stay the same. No, you make a good point. It's very true. It's almost come round. But back then, before my day, I have to add, this was revolutionary. Okay, and it was driven by several things. Hi, Aladdin. Nice to see you. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Ooh, 222. No, can anybody hear Aladdin?
Nope.
Okay. No, okay, I don't know. Maybe he's gone off to make a cup of tea. Maybe he just can't hear us. We were talking about this earlier in the session on Spotlight. Okay, I hope everything's working okay for you. Okay, I'm just going to share an image with you. Okay, bear with me. I've got to try and save it. How can I save it? Oh. Copy. Copy. Save to keep. Okay, I will save it to the keep notepad, and then I can share the notepad with you. Okay. Okay. Now I've just got to try and figure out how to share it. Go to keep. Okay. Ooh. Bear with me. I'm still not 100% certain about how to use this sharing on delete, make a copy to Google Docs. Ooh, how do I share it with you guys?
What kind of file?
It's just an image. It's just an image, but I can't seem to. Add image, archive, done more, remind me, collaborator. Oh, it's not going to work that well at the moment. And copy to Google Docs. Okay, I'll try that. Then I can share it with you. Open document. Oh, this is such a long way around.
Name it in Flickr or in Google
No,
Plus?
this is in Google. So we can blame Google, but for some reason...
Google Photos, you mean?
No, save image as. Save image to keep, open image in tab, copy image address. I'll try this. Let's see. Now, is that working, do you think?
Nope. Error.
Oh, it worked for me.
No. That's an error. No.
Ah.
Oh,
Tram's trying to find us, so... again, I can't offer her a teleport. What's going on? Do you know what? I had this problem with Tough Guy. Do you think she's lost? Can't even instant message her.
Bye.
Ah, here you go. She's very good at landing on my head, but no, not today. Okay, sorry about this. I thought I'd got a solution, and I don't think I have. Open image in new tab. No, it's not letting me do that either. Save image as. I hate computers. Okay, I'll upload it and just share it the old-fashioned way. Okay. Hello, Traum. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lynn, I can hear you. And many thanks for helping me. Yesterday I had the same problem. I couldn't get to the venue, to the event yesterday. I had no chance to teleport, to get in contact with one of you. And when I tried to go to teleport myself, it didn't work. And
Yeah,
so
I wasn't able to teleport you either, so I don't know what's... It happened to Tough Guy too, so it might be a case we've got to download a new version of whatever viewer we're using. That can sometimes be the case.
Okay. Does it mean that you got a message yesterday?
Yesterday in
In
the evening.
In the evening?
Speakeasy. No, I didn't get any message from... If I'd had a message from you, I would have done... We were just in the pub, as usual, for Speakeasy. So, I don't know what happened.
Okay, it's over. Today is a new chance.
Yeah.
think
Sorry. Indeed, sorry. Okay, I'm just about to share a photograph with you. Okay. So bear with me a second. I'd like you to look at the photo and tell me what you see. Okay. But you can make it bigger. You can stretch it out. I'm making it bigger on the picture. On the screen share.
Line of.
Okay, have you all got a copy of it? Can you see it?
Yep.
Good.
Me too. Do they weaving?
Yeah. Now, if you remember, well done. If you remember in the cottage, yeah, there was a weaving loom. There was a loom that would be installed in the cottage, and the weaver would weave the cloth, literally, in the cottage from the raw materials provided by the merchant. But the factory system, and if I could have found a huge loom for in here, I would have done, but I couldn't find anything that was loomy enough or big enough to give you an idea. But if you imagine this whole area would have been filled with these machines, but much, much bigger versions, automated, okay? But of course they needed operators. Each machine has an operator in a factory in those days, okay? And this is an example of one of the mills. And it looks, if you look at the walls in the picture, they look awfully similar, don't they? To the walls here. Do you agree?
That they look. Sorry, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, the walls in the picture. Okay, there are windows, but the walls, it looks, we could almost be in the same building. If we installed the machines in here, we could almost be in the same building. Welcome back, Aladdin. Have you got voice now?
Yes, I think.
Yay! Excellent. Okay, so how would you describe the picture? Or wouldn't you?
Black and white.
Yeah, it's a black and white picture. Yeah.
Like messy. A lot of people doing different things, and that girl just behind the, I don't know, that from the loom, or looks funny.
Okay, so it's in a building like this. The woman isn't working, the nobles aren't working. Okay, yeah, the people in the background don't look as if they're working. The ones in the top hats. Now, there's not... Okay, Traum, you weren't here for this part of the session. Don't let the top hats make you think these people were nobility. A lot of the people running the factories were what they called the nouveau riche. Okay, the new people with new money. New money. It's a bit snobby to say it, but that's how people think. Okay. And the Victorian factory owners were often... it was very, very different. It wasn't inherited wealth. The self-made man became... I made my money, I'm a self-made man, I didn't have an education. Because they didn't inherit the wealth, they built it. They had the opportunity because, the Victorian times changed, the industrialization changed everything. Suddenly people who were willing to work hard and could get investors... were able to create huge amounts of wealth through trade and through manufacture. Okay? So the merchant classes, if you like, suddenly had huge amounts of money. Yeah? So the top hats, it could be nobility, could be somebody checking on his investment, a banker, or it could be somebody who's built the factory with his own sweat and blood and got the money together because he's seen an opportunity. And old money of the time really did look down on new money. I don't know, is my voice too loud for everybody?
No, it's okay.
No.
You can adjust.
It's just you, Aladdin. If you just adjust my volume then, Aladdin. Okay. It might just be that you've got a super duper system now, and but no, I haven't got it set. I don't think I've got it set to the max. Oh, I have got it set to the max here. Hang on, can everybody still hear me? Is that any better?
It's the same, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
okay.
the same.
Right now?
Oh, that's good, because I just adjusted it and you're all saying it's just the same. The picture went bigger. I don't know what you mean.
Where is the picture?
Ah,
I can
okay.
see it
You've
on the wall.
disappeared. No, no, no. It's okay. I can. I've shared it with everybody. Okay.
You say you want to make it a bit bigger?
You can
Bigger?
do.
Bigger?
I said you can make it bigger. Just stretch it
But
in
how?
your.
No, you can't. Only the yeah, the pictures it won't be bigger.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's odd.
Can you press that picture here? Because
I'll try.
you are the only one who can make up or build here. But
I download it in my computer, and there I can make it bigger, but not in Kitely.
Oh, that's really weird.
Uh-huh. Okay.
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 I'll try on a prim then. Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, I've just tried to search for presenter under people. That's not going to work. So, where's the problem finding one I can use? Yeah, I had hoped I'd be able to use Google Keep, but for some reason it doesn't want to. So I'll just find one that's easy to set up. Okay, I'll use a spare one. There you go. Let's see if this works. No promises. This is an old one from Brexit. Okay. Clear the content. Oh, there's a lot of content in there. Okay.
I'm not sure. Do I see the most important facts on the picture?
No, no, there's no picture yet. Give me a break. I'm having to load everything in. Okay, so hopefully now I go in. Yep, and I can add that picture to it. Okay, can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, good. So hopefully, can you see it, Aladdin? Traum?
It's loading.
Behind
Okay.
you? Yeah, it can take a little
Yes,
time
better.
for the picture to load. Hi,
Yes,
Rima!
perfect. Yes, perfect.
Okay, so...
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Still
hello.
loading.
I've dragged you into a Victorian factory. I'm going to put you all to work.
Oh,
Well, this is what happened. I mean, we'll come to that in a moment. But yes, some people were making a lot of money. A lot of money. I've started repeating things like Trump. A lot of money. Okay, and the way they did it, as I said,
Money.
yeah, money, money, money. Money makes the world go round. A mark a zen, a buck or a pound. A mark a yen, a buck or a pound. But they built these factories and they were able to fill them with people because the industrialization that allowed the factories to be built were being used in the fields. Suddenly, field work was no longer a way people could make a living. Not be rich. You know, people who were weavers, cottage weavers, weren't rich, but they could feed their families, they could clothe themselves, they could have some land around them. And suddenly all that was taken away because the landowners, the ones who'd inherited much of their wealth, no longer needed them. They suddenly had threshing machines and ploughs that were steam operated, where one man with a horse and a plough could do one field in a day, they could do the whole estate mechanised in a day. And they didn't even have to sometimes buy the machinery. They could just hire somebody with the machine and send them off, and all that work was being done that had been done by a whole family or a whole community was suddenly being done by one person. So all these people literally got thrown out of their houses often. They didn't own the houses. They were estate workers, so they were no longer needed on the estate, and they were thrown off their land because it wasn't their land, and they had to find work. So there was this ready supply of manual labour for the factories to feed the factories, and that's what they did. So these people who had been working the land suddenly found themselves working in factories, and it wasn't just men. If you notice, that's what I find quite interesting about this picture. Okay, it wasn't men. This was published in 1835. Okay, and the source of this particular picture. Okay. This was in a book about a child who was an orphan, and he started work in a factory at the age of 6. So what we're looking at here is child labour, because the two main characters in the picture are 2 children, and if you look underneath the machine, can you see under the machine?
Yes. Yes, I can see it.
Child.
Yeah, a child. Now, what on earth is a child doing under the machine like that? Have you any idea?
Yes, I know that because I watched a film about it, about in Belgium. It was a real story, and the children had to collect all the cotton that fell on the ground. They had to go down there and collect it again.
And why children?
Sorry?
Why children? Why did they use children?
Because they can bigger. If you are taller or bigger or thicker, you can't go under the machine.
That's exactly, Monique. That was exactly it. Their size. They were small enough to fit under the machine and in the machine. And it wasn't just when material fell to the floor, it was if anything got blocked, because time was money. Those machines had to operate 24/7 to recoup the investment. They were expensive. These things weren't cheap. And so they had to keep operating. So if anything went wrong, you sent in the ones with the smallest frame and the nimblest fingers, and they would free the machine of any blocked material that was stopping the machine from running, or to fix any of the threads, and, as April said, to sweep the floor for any material that could be reused. And because the big boss had a hat on his head, yeah, Rima, his hat wouldn't fit under the machine. But can you imagine sending children as young as 6 to do dangerous work like that?
That's mean.
Cruelty, yeah.
Well, that sounds cruel, but honestly, what you're looking at here is a vision of hell. I know everybody goes on about the great Victorian age and the age of steam and the age of progress and the Industrial Revolution, but if you didn't have money, it was hell on earth. I mean, from running around in the fields, yeah, it was hard work, but you were in the open air, you got fed. Suddenly people were working 11-hour days, 12 hours, as long as they could basically keep them working. It was almost like slavery. They were paid a wage, but it was barely enough to keep them alive. Quite often, people in those days, they were paid not money, but tokens that could be used in the factory shop. So they could only actually buy what was available. I mean, this is where much of the unions came from. I think people have forgotten how bad it was. But, you know, they talk about the unions nowadays as troublemakers, but there's a reason for unions, and this was it. Laws were brought in eventually to prevent this kind of exploitation. But yeah, there was no child labour laws back then. There were no laws to restrict the number of hours you could work, or holidays, or wages. There was no minimum wage. So if you were in a low skill work, like operating a machine, pressing a button, turning a handle, you weren't paid much, and you had to work all the hours you could stay awake in order to earn enough money. And there were punishments. You had to work quickly. And Tough Guy is wanting to join me and hasn't got my message. And, oh, there we go. It's weird. I don't know why I can't send. I'm going to try another viewer next week, or I'll just, yeah. Exactly, April, like in Aldi. Yeah. But hard manual labour. I mean, in Aldi, at least you're sitting down. It's not physically hard work to operate the tills, but you have to do it fast. You have to be quick. There's no time to chat or stand up and stretch your legs or have a little break in between customers. Yeah, you're working the whole time. That's very much the Aldi system. That's why I don't shop at Aldi. Hi,
But
Tough
it's not
Guy.
only Aldi, I think, Lynn, because the postman has to do the same. They have to check how many seconds or minutes it needs to do the letters in the box, and yeah, they do just the same thing.
Yeah.
In every factory, I think.
In every system of this kind of work, yes. I mean, even today, online work, yeah, you're expected to produce certain results within a certain amount of time. Yeah, if you're working as a freelance worker, freelance writing, so many words in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But that's the
true. I
only
mean,
way
it's
they
still
can-
happening. But we are all wage slaves, I'm afraid. But in these days, you weren't just worked hard; you were punished. And you didn't just get your wage docked. Okay, if your wage is docked, if your money is docked, it means it's cut. Yeah, you were physically punished. Okay, so here's some horrible reading for you. This is like Horrible Histories 101. Okay. Who was first here? It was either Monique or April, but I'm not sure who. April, would you like to read?
Okay. Once two handles weighing about a pound each were screwed to my ears. Another time about 3 or 4 of us were hung by our hands above the machinery. Overlookers sometimes strapped weights around our necks. Sometimes we had to stand in a skip and were beaten with straps, written by an orphan who worked in the mills from an early age. Yeah, once two handles weighing about a pound. Oh.
Yeah, remember a pound as in a pound of weight. We're still on pounds, pints in England. Okay, so they became almost like prisons, the factories. In fact, there's some records of people being kidnapped to work in the factories. Because as more and more factories were being built, they needed more and more people to work in them. People discovered, okay, this great life of working in the cities isn't all it's cracked up to be, so they started trying to move away, and they would be kidnapped and actually held imprisoned in these places to work. Screwed to my ears makes me angry. No, screwed to my ears literally attached to your ears to punish you. So Do you get it, Rima? You get two weights,
But it's
like earrings,
yes,
but
but
they used this is machinery, remember, so they had lots of machinery there, and they started using the machinery to torture the young children because they were in a position of power over them.
handles is some kind of machinery because I
Well, you get
think
handles
like
on a door. Yeah, that's a handle.
okay.
Okay.
But which handles? Once two handles weighing from which handles?
Okay,
From
two
which
hand.
machine?
This is beginning to remind me of a four candles joke. No, a handle. It could be from the machine, probably. So a handle that you
Oh,
pull.
okay, okay.
Okay, a machine
Oh,
handle.
okay, now I
Okay, so maybe the
it's
children weren't working hard enough. Maybe they were playing or fighting. Fighting was obviously frowned upon by the overseers. And if you notice the word, okay, they used this kind of slaving terms as well. Overseer. You had overseers. So,
Overlookers, the same? Same?
yep, overlooker, overseer, the person who was in charge of the factory floor and who was responsible to carry out any punishments. So overlooker, overseer. And overseers used to work in slavery as well. So there was this sort of almost enslaved aspect of working in these factories at a certain level. Okay. Now, some of these accounts were written in order to bring about change, and some accounts were written to say, no, it's not like that. So, Monique, if you would like to read this piece of text.
sorry, Lynn, but
Mhm.
but after once, does it should to stay after once apostrophe once
Oh, I see.
and then
Sorry, I'm like,
apostrophe?
what?
Okay,
In the
what?
text,
Sorry.
in the earlier text.
Yes, in
Okay,
the
let's
text.
have a look. Yes, you could say that. Yeah, once, comma, two handles weighing about a pound each were screwed to my ears. Yes.
Comma, no apostrophe.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Comma. Okay.
Comma
What
would
is
be better.
skip in here, Lynn? What is the skip here?
Skip. Can you
garbage?
remember when we went dumpster diving?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one?
A
Yeah,
skip
okay.
is
Yeah.
like a big, because skips can be used for rubbish or it can be used for materials. A material skip, yeah, the raw materials delivered in a big metal, looks almost like a huge bin. You can also take things to the skip. We call it the skip, which is the place where rubbish is collected. Yeah. Sorry, the tip. The tip. And in the tip, they've got all these huge skips. I mean, massive. They'd hold tons of material. And you just chuck all your rubbish into the different skips, depending whether it's metal or wood or glass. I don't know if you have tips like that in your countries. For stuff that's too big to be picked up by the bin men. Okay, so you've got your domestic rubbish that goes into the bin and gets collected. But if you've got furniture, or if you've got large amounts of packaging, anything like that that they won't take, you have to take it to the tip and you put it into a skip. Bulky rubbish, exactly. Like a very big bin without a lid. Generally, a skip is open. Okay. Okay, so, Monique, if you could read this text, it's the other side, okay?
Okay. At the Bradford factory of Mr. John Wood, workers looked healthy. They work no more than 11 hours each day. A doctor is provided by the firm. If he notices anyone looking ill, he asks the reason and gives medicine if needed. If a person is off work sick, they are paid normal wages. Written by William Dodd in 1841.
Very good, well done. Okay. So, the child, as he grew up,
Different
wrote
size.
his account, but then they started, because the stories came out from these factories, and even Victorian society could not turn a blind eye any longer. You know, punishments, beatings, deaths, children as young as 6 getting their arms torn off by machinery. Yeah, somebody had to look into it. And so they did start investigations. They started, Parliament started investigating. They paid people to go in and they became factory inspectors. Yes, they work no more than 11 hours a day. Oh, that's all right then. I know some people who work 11 hours a day. But not at that kind of manual labour. I mean, that's backbreaking work. So they developed this sort of the factory inspectors, and this guy, William Dodds, was obviously inspecting the factories, and what he found didn't fit with this idea of abuse. Okay. Then we've got another source here. So April, Monique, Traum, I think it's your turn. When what started, Rima?
Oh, when that inspection or inspection started. That inspector.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Let's find out. Okay, it's a difficult one to pin down. Okay, but it was around the 1880s. It's all about labour law. Okay, and it was like a waking up of people when they realised what was happening. So about the late 18th century. Okay, and the modern labour law was begun, but before that the social reformers, and believe it or not, one of the major social reformers was actually nobility. Okay, wasn't a factory owner. Oh no, they didn't like the idea of any kind of laws coming in to restrict what they could do. But and part of it was brought about by illness, major illness, cholera outbreaks. Because the cities were attracting more and more people, there was no sanitation, and suddenly the factories were, hundreds of people would be working in one place, they'd meet one person with typhoid or cholera, they'd all get it. That had never happened before, this intense concentration of population. And there's one thing that makes people sit up and take notice: if everybody around them is dying.
Yeah, I watched the show that I think that you said me that you watched it also. Victoria, they're like when cholera or I don't know, plague, how do you say?
Plague,
Maybe
cholera, influenza.
plague.
Yeah, they were all killers in their day.
Yeah, they separated poor people affected with this disease in some ghettos to live there. It was like horrible, and after a few seconds they showed the glamour of the castles.
In the past, before Victoria's time, quite often the king or queen would move out of London during those times when they knew this was going to be, there would be influenza. I mean, they were terrified of it. There were no antibiotics back then, no penicillin. You know, you caught something, 50-50 chance you would die of it. So this kind of made people realise, okay, we need to do something. Then they started the factory inspections about from the late 17th century to the early 18th century. But things didn't change quickly because there was a lot of resistance. People were making a lot of money. Not in Poldark period. I've never heard history called Poldark period, Downton Abbey period. Pride and Prejudice period. Okay, we'll look at that as well. We'll look at that as well today. But anyhow, Traum, are you ready to read? Any other questions? Okay, then Traum, here's your text.
It is said that children are so cruelly beaten that they become deformed. Some say children are forced to work 15 hours a day. I think this unusual. Children's work could not be easier. The children stand up straight, walk about and have the opportunity to sit down. The tiny fibers of cotton in the air are said by doctors do not be harmful. Written by Edward Baines in his newspaper, The Northern Mercury.
Okay, so his newspaper, he's obviously the newspaper owner. I love this bit. The tiny fibres of cotton in the air are said by doctors to not be harmful. Well, we know that's not true. Monique, you have to fasten your laces. Yeah, you might trip over them, Monique. Hey, is that right? Oh, yes. You haven't tied your laces, Monique. Any questions about that text? Again,
Yes, I don't.
it's obviously the latest fashion, April.
But it's dangerous.
No, if they don't touch the floor, because I do the same in real life. So I keep them sometimes, like this. But if they're not on the floor or just to touch the floor, it's okay. I'll be okay.
Okay, so was this person pro or anti, do you think? Was he neutral? Was he...
He's a little bit, for me, he's a little bit contradictory because he blamed them, like he said about children that they were cruelly beaten, but after children's work could not be easier. What is it?
Well, if you look at the
he's
beginning...
cynic.
Yeah, if you look at the beginning, he says it is said, what we call hearsay, okay? So he's saying, yeah, all these liberal softies are saying that the children are beaten. Well, I went into a factory and they were fine. They could stand up and walk about and they had the opportunity to sit down. Whoopee-doo. He says, I think this is unusual, as in it's not in his experience. Traum?
I also not sure about this text, Lynn. The newspaper of Edward Baines, does he say the children's work is harmful?
No, he's defending the factories. He's saying, I've heard these stories of how badly the children are treated, but in my experience, children's work couldn't be easier. Now, the Northern Mercury, the newspaper, it's what we call a source. He's an idiot. Harsh. Don't hold back, Rima. Say what you mean.
Yes, but yes, now, yes, you said, I got it now. Yes, he used to quote someone, it is said, he quoted just, and he doesn't believe, so, yes, probably.
Okay, he's stating his point of view, yeah? Only when the inspector came to check. Well thought, April. Now, that's what I call critical thinking. Yeah. When these inspectors, often, they were forewarned that the inspector would come. Yeah, we'll come to check your factory tomorrow. So what were they going to do? Suddenly, the windows would be open, the children would be playing. It's like school inspections, yeah? Every time there's a school inspection, suddenly everything's fantastic. Yeah, Errol, it's amazing how well behaved and how nice the teachers are to the children for the day. Okay. The other thing is you've got to look at the source. Do you know what I mean by look at the source? Check your
saying
source.
that thing.
Yeah.
Northern Mercury.
Claiming that.
So the Northern Mercury.
Mercury, yeah.
Yeah, that's often newspapers. I don't think there's any Mercuries anymore, but often newspapers back then, local newspapers, are all gone now. They're all online or dead. But the Mercury was a common name for a newspaper because, of course, Mercury was the god of the messenger, wasn't he? So I guess that's where it comes from, the idea, we're the messenger for the area. Okay, the Northern Mercury. Might he have a conflict of interest with the factories, do you think? No? You think he's an independent...
What exactly?
Could you
Yeah,
explain
what
this?
about what kind of conflict of
Conflicts,
interest?
yeah.
Yeah,
With whom?
maybe. Ever heard of a paper mill? I mean, this
Paper
guy
mill.
existed, by the way. He's a real person. He was a liberal. Okay.
Existed.
Yep. He was a liberal, and he wrote books. He was very keen on adult education, but he was an opponent of the factory reform movement. Okay.
Oh, see, he wanted to stay the same.
Yeah. And
Ah,
even though he believed in education, he believed that education was something individuals could do for themselves under the guidance of natural instinct and self-interest. So he was against any kind... He actually did write something, compel education is wrong.
only what provided money for him was the right.
Yeah.
But who is that William Dodd? Who was William Dodd?
Who was
The
William Dodd?
second one.
Yeah.
The second one. That is a terrible man.
Yep.
But maybe last one is worse, in my opinion.
Why do you think the last one is worse?
Because he said like about children, because he involved children, and actually it doesn't mean if he was right, but he actually, I don't know if it's like this claim is right or no. He involved children and employed them, and probably, I don't know if anyhow if he paid them or not, but it was cruelty to involve children for to accomplish your own purposes, in this case to get the money. Yes, it's for me immediately, if someone involves children, it's worse than someone, I don't know. Yes, because of this, because William Dodd didn't mention children.
No, exactly. And what you might be surprised to learn by is William Dodd actually wrote a book about the exploitation of children. Now, when you read his text, you might think, but that's not negative, that sounds okay. But that was one factory he wrote about. Okay, when he wrote, he published a book, and it described his own experiences with his sister as child workers in textile industry, where they were working 18-hour days, and it actually crippled him. Okay, he was crippled by the kind of work he was doing, because children working heavy manual labour, their bones aren't fully formed yet, and children literally were crippled in those days. And he was just being fair there. So if you look at the history of him, and well done for asking the question, what about William Dodd? Who is he? Where does he come from? What was his agenda? So you've got one guy who was anti-reform, one guy who was pro-reform, but actually wrote something positive about a factory because it was a factory that had good conditions. He was being fair. Okay. Now here's another one, and I'm going to give you the text. I think, Aladdin, are you able to speak? Are you able to read out loud today?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So, Aladdin, if you read this, and then I want you to tell me who you think wrote it. Don't Google it.
I'm using what? Okay. I have visited many factories and never seen any evidence of beatings. The children always seems to be careful and alert. They enjoyed showing off their work to any strangers, and they never seemed tired. Uh, At the end of the day, at Quarry Bank, there is a good-looking house. It was built as a home for female appren-
Apprentices. Apprentices.
apprentices. They are well-fed, clothed, and educated.
Okay. Do you know what an apprentice is?
No.
Okay, an apprentice is a young person. We still have them. We have an apprentice system still in the UK where young people learn a trade. They learn a skill. So you might be an apprentice to a plumber or a carpenter or a weaver. Yeah? You're learning from the older person, if you like. Yeah, yeah, like a student, but apprenticeships were weird. In those days, you pay. Well, actually, in those days, your parents paid to make you an apprentice, and then you were worked by the master. Okay. The craftsperson or the craftswoman, craftsperson, until you became good enough to actually become a craftsperson in your own right. It was the old guild system. It was very corrupt, and nowadays apprentices tend to be paid. But I guess it was like the internship of its day. Internships often, the poor, I can't believe why or how they've allowed this to happen, but young people have allowed themselves to accept internships where they work for a company and they don't get paid. OMG. Trump's reality show. Yeah. Yeah, reminds me of. Yeah, well done, April. So an apprentice, not a student, because the student is towards education. It's more towards skills. I'd say the apprentice system is more like the NVQ we have in the UK now, the National Vocational Qualification. Okay? A kind of education, but an education that leads you to a skill rather than knowledge as such. It's a difficult one, where does skill begin and knowledge end? But yeah, it's more the craftsman work, carpentry, ironwork, wrought ironwork. Monique. Sorry. Back to yesterday's session, wrought. More for trades, blue collar workers, exactly, manual labour. But not low skilled. The idea of being an apprentice was not to get stuck with a low skilled job. It was to have a skill. Stonemason, yeah. Electrician nowadays. Electricians, they take on apprentices to teach them the trade. Okay. So who do you think wrote this?
Slaughter also.
Sorry, April.
The slaughters. Also apprentice, but is that the same as
what?
internship, Lynn?
No, I didn't catch you, April. The slaughters?
No, maybe another word for the butcher.
Oh, the butcher.
No, not the butcher.
Okay. No, in the slaughterhouses, yeah, the butchers.
Yeah,
I would say that being a butcher is more of a trade than working in a slaughterhouse. And I mean, there's a bit of skill in a slaughterhouse, but generally it's brute force and knowing the law in the slaughterhouse.
But
Have you ever been to a slaughterhouse?
If you said apprentice, I always think of children, teenagers. So for adults, it's not apprentice. Apprentice, is it right, Lynn? For me, it's at the secondary school
level.
Yeah,
Apprentices would be young people. Yeah, I know you're thinking of The Apprentice. You're fired.
But especially when you are doing, for example, your internship,
Yeah.
you will be an apprentice. That case.
But depending what you're doing an internship for, is it a skill, a trade, or is it white collar
No,
work?
I mean when you. Oh, white
You
collar.
wouldn't be an apprentice accountant, for example. Yeah, you'd be a trainee.
Yep.
So trainee accountant, trainee doctor. Yeah, you wouldn't be an apprentice doctor, but an apprentice electrician. So there is this sort of class system, if you like. Oh, that's manual work. You're working with your hands. Oh, that's brain work. You're working with your brain. You get your hands dirty, or you get a fat bum from sitting down all day. And back then, the apprentice system was really rigidly controlled by usually the apprentices came from within the family. You know, you were born into a trade. That was your trade. And if you wanted to be an artist or a poet, well, God help you. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Okay, so very nicely read. Well done. Any idea who wrote that one? Was it pro or anti?
I wrote a Dodd.
Or Edward? Oh no, who? Sorry.
Dodd.
You think
Did
Dodd
ask
wrote it?
Linas? Did you say that he was an inspector?
No, he wasn't an inspector. He was a reformer. He tried to get things changed, but he wasn't an inspector. Okay, so maybe this was somebody else. Maybe this was an inspector, though, Rima. Maybe this was an inspector. I have visited many factories, so that would indicate to me it might be an inspector. What does anybody else think? I've never seen any evidence of beatings, and the children are always cheerful and alert. So in other words, he was going into factories and he was seeing children working, but it was okay because they were cheerful. Different times, different perspective, I think.
Lynn, I wonder who had told the stories that the children gets badly treated.
Well, William Dodd was one of them.
It was a new field, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Generally,
I think also
from what I can work out, generally it was as they grew older, and obviously they got too big to beat, but then they would go and tell their story to the factory inspectors or the reformers. Could be a journalist too, maybe. Actually, I'll put you out because you won't guess.
Oh, okay.
Oh, factory owner, of course.
Makes sense.
oh God. Okay.
Oh, well, I've been in loads of my own factories, and the kids I work there, we don't beat them.
Sorry, Lynn, may I add something?
You may, yes. I'm not promising I'll be able
Before
to
I
answer
go.
you, but go on.
No. It's not a question. I just want to add something or make a comment. So basically, I think that things haven't changed so much. I mean, nowadays it's almost the same. Okay, I mean that we are or improved all the children's job regulation or stuff like that. I mean, that is an advance about that matter. But I think it's the same. I mean, maybe products have changed, or maybe the factories, or maybe the way we produce. But in the end, it's all the same thing, and we will always have those comments from different perspectives. And when it comes to the owner, they will say that everything is okay and they are the best. And some employees, they will suffer the consequences of, having a really, let's say, like a really hard work. And it's the same. I don't know. Somehow, to me, it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, especially when you look at it on a global scale. much of it is the same and just as bad as it was back then. But because there are no labour laws, it is different in the UK. I mean, if a factory inspector were to walk into a factory and find children working there, the factory would be closed down legally and the owner would be taken to court. That said, even today in the UK, there are factories that don't get inspected because nobody knows they're being used as factories, and they have, especially with the influx of refugees, some of these refugees are basically promised jobs, and before that you know it, it's like being back in Victorian times. I mean, literally, it's been proven that this is happening with child labour as well. But they're not official. They are, and they know they're breaking the law. Back then, they were not breaking the law. They were actually proud of what they were doing. Yeah. Oh, well, we take these children off the street. We feed and clothe them. You know. But no, we're not going to teach them to read or write. They don't need education. They just need to work for us, as long as they know which button to press. Okay, let's just very quickly get everybody to do a bit of reading today. Who hasn't read yet? Tough guy, are you okay to read?
Yes.
Okay.
"17 years ago, I bought the new Lenark mill. There I found 500 children working 13-hour days. They were deformed and had stopped growing. They could not even learn the alphabet. I came to the conclusion that the children were injured by working in the mills for such long hours. Robert Owen wrote this in 1816 to explain to Parliament why he did not employ children under 10.
Okay, very good. Very good. Well read.
Done.
Well read. So things started to change. Oh, bye, Monique. Sorry, I didn't see you saying bye. Oh, mister.
17 years ago, Lynn, 17. It's not so long ago.
No, from 1816. He wrote it at
1816. 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was before this. Before Baines and I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, has anybody else not read yet? I think everybody got to read, yeah? Okay, I'll read one last bit, which shows you how I think this is the most chilling thing, okay? Some factories did have doctors that worked for the factory, yeah? The factory doctor still exists. The works doctor, the works nurse still exists today in some factories, okay? So he was asked this question by one of the government's investigating committees. Have you observed that children in factories have particular accidents? And his answer was, children's hands and arms often get caught in the machinery. In many instances, the muscles and the skin is stripped down to the bone. Occasionally a finger or two might be lost. I know. On that cheerful note, we'll stop for this week. We'll continue talking about this next week, and we'll look at how it changed, who changed it, who became the driving force behind, because it had to change. I mean, can you imagine if we'd carried on like that? It would be awful. But that is why this term, April, dark satanic mills, these places where, I mean, they might be nice little shicky-micky sort of yuppie palaces now. People have bought these factories and they've turned them into luxury apartments. Loft living is a term that's often used. They are sought after, these lovely brick buildings, but they're steeped in misery. They truly are. I wonder sometimes if the people who buy these old factories and do them up, if the people who live in them hear the weeping children at night. Or is that my, that maybe is my imagination running riot again. Okay, so I hope I can't say enjoyed the session, but I hope you found it interesting. As I say, we've moved up from the agricultural life in the UK to literally what was the life for many people in Victorian times. Any questions
My
before we
my
finish?
stomach my stomach is churning
Oh, I'm sorry.
with the last paragraph when I wrote about that the skin is stripped down to the bone. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
But the mills here, dark satanic mills. The mills here is the mills. They work in the mills, or the mills are used to make the machinery working.
Both. They had steel mills, cotton mills, wool mills. They were just called mills, big factories. Yeah, it was a word that described factories back then. Yeah, you can still see it on some old Victorian brick walls. Yeah, steel mill in Sheffield, for example. Okay.
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 It's not like the
Not like a
windmill.
windmill. No. When it's spring again, I'll bring you again. No, it's not that kind of lovely romantic mill. If you actually look outside the building, this building, you'll see a great big chimney. Okay, there's a huge chimney, which is where the steam, because all the machinery was steam operated back then, which was coal. So it was pretty stinky as well and noisy. I mean, we're looking at the picture. What I couldn't find was the noise of the machinery. And there were no earmuffs or no ear protection then. People went deaf as well. And they got lung disease from the particles in the air and the general conditions. This picture was a sanitized version, and this picture was more the reality. Yeah. So if you compare the two, look, yes, look, lovely, beautifully dressed women, and the children are just doing light work. Yeah, no, here, look, the children are fighting, the women are underfed and being exploited by the men maybe, and they're sending their children to clear out the stuff and sending them under the machinery, where I'm afraid, arms will get ripped off, fingers snapped off and stripped to the bone. So it's a cheerful session, isn't it? Sorry about that. But I think it's good learning about this kind of thing because it's England's history and it created a lot of what we are today. And some people would like it back. When we knew our place. Okay, so I love you and leave you. I'll be in the jam session in 15 minutes or so for TGIF. If you'd like to come and join, that'd be great. And we can maybe talk about something more cheerful. Tram looks like she's been sent into the corner of being naughty. And if you find any nice big factory machinery that I could put in here, that would be great. But as I say, I did look around in all the steampunk builds and everything, and I couldn't find anything that really did it justice like these pictures do. Just how oppressive these places could be. Mind you, that said, I wish I owned this building in Nottingham, and it'd be worth a few million now. How times change. Take care then. Bye.
Thanks you.
Of them because they didn't move with the times, and so we had this new class in the UK, and often looked down upon because they made their money in work rather than having inherited it. So it's a bit of a shame really, but that's what the UK is still like in sometimes. Okay. Now there were downsides to this. There were upsides to it. Some people got very rich. And last time, in the last session, we discussed what the problems were with the cottage industries of the day. Each time materials had to be brought to each individual cottage, and there were several different processes to go through, and each time the products had to be picked up and moved to the next process. The idea of the factory was to bring it all under one roof. Now, was it a good idea, do you think?
I think so, because you can centralize your operations in one place.
Yep. That's how we kind of view things nowadays, isn't it?
Yes and no. Actually, sometimes it's better when you can outsource something. So do what you want to do best, and just you can outsource the rest of the processes. But it depends, of course, on the industry or the product that you are manufacturing.
That's very true too. Okay, but this was revolutionary. Yeah, the idea of doing this was absolutely revolutionary.
But it is just the contrary. It is now the opposite, Lynn, I think, because a lot of factories just sent their production. They let other people, so other countries, product their basic, and then to bring it to our country here, and then here they just put everything that is already made in the other country, low cost countries, and then they make it here. Just they assemble it here. And that's all. So instead of everything in the same place, it is now just the opposite.
Yeah, it's funny how the more things change, the more they stay the same. No, you make a good point. It's very true. It's almost come round. But back then, before my day, I have to add, this was revolutionary. Okay. And it was driven by several things. Hi, Aladdin. Nice to see you. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Ooh. 222. No, can anybody hear Aladdin?
Nope.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to Kitely. Welcome back to Kitely. April, you're grey for me. I don't know why. Monique, you're okay. So I can only think it's April's connection. So don't be too surprised in the stream, April, when you see that you're grey. I can't really do much about it. If anybody knows how to stop that, how to res the an avatar. Somebody else's avatar, of course. I know how to do it for myself.
I did that. I could do that in Second Life,
Yeah,
but not here. I haven't found it.
No, I haven't either. Neither in Firestorm nor in Alchemy. So I don't really know what's going on there. But that's what it does. I think it's just one of those things we're going to have to put up with. So what we're in now is a very typical, what we call a red brick building, the shell of a red brick factory from the Industrial Revolution. You can tell it's huge. It's built of brick, as many houses in Britain still are. Victorian houses sell at a premium because of the fantastic red brick they used and the skill of the bricklayers, because they're very, very, they're very stable, very structurally sound buildings. And at some point they were all deserted. People just abandoned them and moved into modern factory blocks and out of towns factories because the space was getting too tight. But these places sprang up all over the UK. At one point there's a famous line, Britain's dark satanic mills. I don't know if you've heard it.
What, Lynn?
The dark satanic mills.
Dark satanic meals?
Mills, not
What's
meals.
that?
Remember mill? Mill?
Oh,
Meal.
okay.
Meal?
A meal.
Mill. Dark satanic meals. That's not a reflection on British food.
It could be.
No. Oh, please, no. Don't say that. Now, just to bear with me 1 second. I'm just checking that I'm in the right area of my... that's interesting. I'm not sure if I'm in the right area of my computer, so I will just extract now and hope. Okay. Okay, it's gone into the right place. Excellent. Good. So what we're looking at is, as I say, this is a Victorian factory, and they were built by what they were called the nouveau riche of the time, the tradesmen, the wheelers and dealers, not the landowners. The landowners basically lost out to the Industrial Revolution many. No, okay, I don't know. Maybe he's gone off to make a cup of tea. Maybe he just can't hear us. We were talking about this earlier in the session on Spotlight. Okay, I hope everything's working okay for you. Okay, I'm just going to share an image with you. Okay, bear with me. I've got to try and save it. How can I save it? Oh. Copy. Save to keep. Okay, I will save it to the keep notepad, and then I can share the notepad with you. Okay. Okay. Now I've just got to try and figure out how to share it. Go to keep. Okay. Ooh. Bear with me. I'm still not 100% certain about how to use this sharing on delete, make a copy to Google Docs. Ooh, how do I share it with you guys?
What kind of file?